One of the lowest suburbs in rates for water. We got our aging infrastructure, and the chances are that we'll have many more water main breaks than someone else that has an up-to-date infrastructure. I think that we should stay right on track and do the collections like we've been doing them.
I think that people make mistakes in life. I think that some people fall on hard times and may not have the money right away, but the whole point is to get the money. When the resident come and pay their bill, we should turn their water back on. But yet we have rules. We say they have to pay by a certain time, and then we will turn their water back on. Example, if you guys' cable bill gets shut off and you pay it, guess what? They turn it right back on. The whole point was to get the money. We got the money, turn the residents' water on. I don't believe or feel that you guys should have to suffer over 3 days. We're still doing our job by turning the water off Monday through Thursday. So I don't understand what's the issue of not turning it off on a Friday or a Saturday or a Sunday. Now I will see if them guys was working on Saturday, then yes, we can turn water off on Friday because now the residents still had the opportunity to pay their bill and get their water turned back on. Again, we're not open on Saturdays. How do they come and pay the bill? How do they get water over the weekend? Just because that one individual in the household did not pay the bill for the whole family suffers. Some people got kids, some people got elderly. I don't think they should suffer for 3 days because now the water don't get cut back on till Tuesday. And then when Tuesday get here, may get cut back on later on Tuesday, not that morning. I just don't feel that we should still keep on making the residents pay after they paid, if that makes sense.
The water department has a program where you can work out a payment plan.
Correct.
Now, if you had your lights turned off at 5 o'clock on Friday, when do you get your lights turned back on? If you had your gas turned off at 5 o'clock on Friday, when do you get your gas turned on?
Mayor, they have the staff.
When do you get your gas turned on?
I don't know.
You don't get it turned on over the weekend. Neither one of those utilities. So I'm not asking for anything. I'm not saying anything that any other utility company doesn't do. Besides, those utility companies have monthly payments. They're not waiting every quarter to collect.
Once a resident makes their payment, we need to reconnect their water without delay. Hey everyone, welcome back. Today we're diving into how trustee Tiffany Henyard earned the trust and backing of her community, and why so many believed in her as mayor. Let's rewind to a city council meeting where she's pushing to change the water shutoff schedule in Dalton. She's suggesting a new policy, no water shutoffs right before the weekend. The reasoning? If someone falls behind on their bill, they shouldn't have to endure an entire weekend without water. Before we move on, if you're new here and like what you see, don't forget to hit that like button. And if you're already subscribed, show some love with a like as well. Now, Dalton has some of the lowest water rates in the suburbs, but our pipes and infrastructure are aging. That means we're prone to more waterline problems than places with newer systems. Still, our billing system has to stay consistent. People do face tough times, and some can't pay immediately, but when they do, their water should be turned back on. No delays. Think about cable service. If your cable gets cut off and you pay your bill, it usually comes back on the same day. Water service should work the same way. We've received the payment, so the water should be restored promptly. It's not fair for families to go 3 days without water, especially after they've already paid. Our team schedules shutoffs between Monday and Thursday, so why not stop doing it on Fridays? If someone pays on Friday and the office is closed all weekend, how will they get reconnected until Monday or Tuesday? That means entire households, maybe with kids or elderly family members, are left without water unless we have staff working. Saturdays, cutting off water on Fridays just doesn't make sense. If a payment comes through Friday afternoon, no one should have to wait until Tuesday to have their water back. Plus, the water department offers payment plans, right? All these factors need to be considered. We're not trying to punish anyone. We just want to get things back on track the right way. And Mayor, there's nothing wrong with that. It's about how we manage the process. That's the point. The current system is flawed. We shut off water and then delay turning it back on when it's needed. People end up waiting hours after paying their bills. They should be prioritized the same day and not made to wait unnecessarily. That's just not true. You're acting like all these complaints are because we're punishing people. The policy, which existed before I took office, is clear. Once you pay, your water will be restored within 48 hours. It's not instantaneous because the crew has a daily list of disconnections and reconnections. So no, if you pay at 10 a.m., your water isn't back on by 10:30. That's not how it works. Did I say otherwise? I was just giving an example. You mentioned water is off for several hours after payment, and if you pay by noon, it's back on by 3 p.m. I can't confirm that's always the case. Here's the reality. If the crew doesn't finish the list that day, it carries over to the next day. Also, if water is shut off on Friday and you want it back on, the crew only works until 3 p.m. To reconnect after hours, you'd need to pay overtime for public works staff to come out. Mayor, is that really what you want? Don't we already have a rule that customers must pay by noon to get their water turned back on the same day? No, there's never been a formal policy like that. Matt and I sat down and talked about it. You mentioned it, but that policy doesn't exist. I heard it from your department head who said if people pay by noon, the water would be cut off by 3 p.m. No, trustee, that only applied to holiday weekends, the 3-day weekends you brought up with shutoffs. We worked out an arrangement with Janice and the water department. If a resident paid by noon on a Friday before a 3-day weekend, their water would be restored by 3 p.m. that same Friday. But that was only for those long holiday weekends. Well, Matt, I'm not expecting you to agree with me. After our meeting, I sent an email to the whole board outlining our conversation. So now you're contradicting yourself? That's fine. But I'm standing by my position. Water shutoffs should only happen Monday through Thursday. Mayor, I'm advocating for shutting off water during the week only. Fridays, Saturdays, and Sundays should be off limits. Think about other utilities. If your electricity or gas gets shut off late on a Friday, you're stuck waiting until after the weekend to have it restored too. I'm not asking for anything radical here, just fairness and understanding. Other utilities collect payments monthly, not quarterly like we do. Honestly, I agree with Trustee Tiffany Henyard. People need to be responsible for their bills, but many are struggling. Choosing between paying their bills and putting food on the table is a harsh reality. The mayor pointed out that our village collects water payments every 3 months. Some places bill monthly or every 2 months. I've lived in both kinds of places, and I personally prefer monthly billing because it's easier to manage. What about you? Do you like monthly bills or quarterly better? Anyway, we're not trying to punish anyone. We just want to get back on track, and there's nothing wrong with that. It's about how we handle the process. Right now, the system isn't working. Water gets shut off, but even when people pay their bills, they often wait hours or even a full day to have their water restored. Sometimes service isn't restored the same day, even if the payment was made early. Some say it's just how the scheduling works. People think if they pay at 10 a.m., their water will be back by 10:30, but that's not realistic. The crew has a daily list, and if they don't finish it, it carries over to the next day. Plus, if water is cut off on Friday, crews only work until 3 p.m. Restoring service over the weekend means paying overtime for workers to come in. Now, the mayor asked if there's a rule requiring payment by noon to get water back by 3 p.m. He says no such policy exists, but Trustee Tiffany insists. She heard that from a department head. They had a special agreement for holiday weekends. Pay by noon on Friday, get reconnected by 3 p.m. that day. Tiffany even sent an email to the board confirming this. So, there's some disagreement about what was actually agreed upon, but regardless, Tiffany is pushing for water shutoffs to be limited to Monday through Thursday. The meeting began with a discussion about when residents' water should be shut off. One trustee proposed limiting shutoffs to Monday through Thursday, arguing no one's water should be cut off on Friday, Saturday, or Sunday. The board voted, and the motion passed. From that point forward, water shutoffs would only happen on weekdays unless it was an emergency. But if you watched the mayor during that vote, he didn't look pleased. He seemed frustrated, likely because he's running the village like a business. The debt Dalton owes to Chicago is probably weighing heavily on his mind. Some leaders take debt seriously, others don't seem to care much. Which kind of leader do you think Tiffany Henyard is? Even though the board approved the rule, the issue didn't stop there. At a later meeting, water bills and shutoffs came up again. One trustee asked the room, "How many people here are dealing with water problems?" A few people raised their hands. But another trustee quickly argued that 5 complaints didn't make a majority. Then she went on, saying she was tired of hearing the same grievances over and over. Residents reported waiting up to 48 hours to have their water restored after shutoff. She reminded everyone there was already a law stating it shouldn't take that long. The whole point of shutting off water is to encourage bill payments, not to punish families by leaving them without water for days. It shouldn't add extra hardship just because someone couldn't pay on time. This brought to mind a different issue from Mayor Henyard's time in office, when Dalton police started handing out costly parking tickets. An online commenter even mentioned this, calling Tiffany Tahoe because of her flashy lifestyle. They recalled officers issuing $500 tickets that had to be paid in cash quickly. Soon, the news reported hundreds of people showing up to court, waiting for hours in long lines. One woman thought her fine was $50 but discovered it was actually $500. If she missed the deadline, it would double to $1,000. Many were shocked, saying they didn't even know they were ticketed. Stories poured in about people getting fined for stopping just a minute. One man said he picked up pizza quickly, but still got a ticket days later in the mail. Others said they were ticketed for parking in strip malls, not even city property. Many citations came without any prior warning. No ticket left on windshields, just letters in the mail. Later, CBS 2 tried to get answers from Mayor Henyard, but she never responded. A trustee pointed out the town already had a $5 million deficit. He believed the mayor was trying to cover that loss by fining residents. And it wasn't just parking tickets. People were fined for things like not getting permits, even for minor home improvements like installing carpet. In another news story, it came out that the mayor had purchased a 2023 Chevy Tahoe. The total cost with interest was nearly $150,000. And guess whose name was on the paperwork? Hers. This fueled the belief that she was using residents' money to fund her personal expenses. What upset people most was how the mayor always talked about supporting seniors. She campaigned on helping those living on fixed incomes and claimed she opposed price hikes. But then she allowed fines like those $500 tickets, which hit seniors the hardest. It seemed once she secured their votes, she forgot her promises. Facts. Back at the board meeting, the same trustee returned to the water shutoff issue. She said residents were going without water for longer than 48 hours, sometimes even 72 hours. One resident, Elizabeth, was lucky to get her water back before a long weekend, but during holidays like Martin Luther King Day, others went without water until Tuesday. That wasn't fair. People make mistakes. Being left without water for days shouldn't be part of the punishment. She added that if the village has enough staff to turn water off, it should also have enough people ready to restore it just as quickly. She asked the mayor what plans were in place and called for a proper system to help residents better manage their water bills. This meeting happened in 2020, just before Tiffany Henyard became mayor. That might explain why she spoke so passionately. She was still campaigning and wanted voters to believe she was on their side. But then another trustee, Edward Steve, spoke up. He often challenged Henyard and wasn't shy about calling out bad behavior. He pointed out the rule never said water would be off for a full 48 hours. It stated service would be restored within 48 hours. How long it actually took depended on how many homes had shutoffs and how many needed reconnection. Some were reconnected the same day, others the next day, but all within that 48-hour window. He reminded everyone that water shutoffs don't happen on Fridays. That was a board decision. Also, no law requires water to be restored within 24 hours. That was a policy, not an official rule. Recently, a trial program started aiming to restore water within 24 hours instead of 48. Superintendent Stacy, who runs the water department, could explain better. Under Miss Scott's leadership, they've begun trying to reconnect water faster. For example, if water was shut off on the 14th and the resident paid that day, it got turned back on by the 15th, but only after the payment was confirmed. The GCU trial has been running a couple of weeks now with no complaints so far. But here's the thing. People are frustrated. One speaker said, "This isn't just about policies. It's about real people facing real problems." They called it unfair to keep playing with residents' basic needs like water. People are reporting their water was off for more than 48 hours, and they're not exaggerating. This is why the topic keeps coming up in meetings, because there's confusion and blame shifting. First, it's the water department's fault. Then it's Public Works. No one seems willing to take responsibility, and that's the core problem. Residents aren't making things up. They keep showing up and reporting the same issue. Their water wasn't restored on time. This kind of treatment has to stop. The board must step up and stop ignoring these complaints. The system isn't working and someone needs to fix it. One trustee suggested that instead of just blaming the water department, board members should actually sit down with Miss London, who works directly with water services. He said she's open, professional, and willing to explain both the positives and the challenges. He claimed real improvements are happening because he talks to her regularly and sees it firsthand. He also clarified that when residents hear 48 hours, the department means within 48 hours, not necessarily the full 2 days. But another trustee pushed back, saying she doesn't need to be told to talk to people. She already does. That's how she helps solve problems. She insisted the board needs to take responsibility when the same complaints keep coming up. If everyone is reporting the same problem, then clearly something is wrong. She pointed out that water is being shut off without any warning, which is unacceptable. She added that the water department recently raised the minimum consumption limit from 10 to 20 units, without any approval from the board. So when she raises these issues, they're not random complaints. These are real problems that demand attention. She made it clear this isn't about personal attacks, it's about doing right by the residents. She asked everyone to imagine if their own family member had their water turned off without warning. What if it was a mother, an aunt, or a family with children? That's why she's so frustrated. She also called out Mayor Tiffany Henyard for hypocrisy. Under Henyard's leadership, people were hit with $500 parking tickets, yet now many of those same residents are being ignored when their water gets shut off. Someone tried to move on to other topics, but she wasn't done. She spoke about how water bills are handled. Many complaints come from those who haven't paid in months. But it's not just about unpaid bills. It's about the lack of proper warning. Currently, the bills include a red warning stating overdue balances can lead to shutoff, but for some residents, that's not enough. Previously, the village sent separate shutoff notices, but that practice stopped about 3 years ago due to budget cuts. It was too expensive to print and mail thousands of extra notices. Now the only warning is printed on the bill itself. Trustee emphasized that water shutoffs aren't unusual. Every town does it. The real problem is how Dalton treats people going through it. Residents feel mistreated, and that's where she draws the line. The video ends with a reflection. While the board debates these issues, it's important to remember that Mayor Henyard herself has made many decisions that didn't serve the community's best interests. Viewers are invited to share in the comments examples of when Henyard acted against the well-being of the people.